how can we ensure that youth are not just included, but actually leading and shaping localized development agendas?
Thank you so much. So I believe the youths are supposed to be empowered and be part of the youth-led organizations, because in giving them the avenues to lead these organizations and empowering them, I mentioned about sustainability. And the youth, they need to be part and given spaces to sit in places where policies are being made. They need spaces, they need to be part of where planning is being done, and also the implementation phases. In that case, I believe we have sustainability. We need to invest in the youth's socio-economic well-being. We also there's an aspect of inclusivity. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm a project and a product of, I'd say, inclusivity, because I'm coming from the marginalized group. And we have the young women, we have the voiceless people, and inclusivity brings the aspect of being able to hear from those who are voiceless. So I believe the youth need to be empowered to be part of the solutions, and they need resources. Yeah.
Thank you. So for you, it's inclusion at all levels.
Inclusion at all levels. We need to invest in the youth. We need to give them spaces. They need to be in spaces where this planning is being done, so that they're able to own up the project.
Thank you. So maybe we could move to Madam Rita. So as a leader in provision of decent and affordable housing for low-income households and population, so how do you ensure that marginalized communities have access to safe?
Stands that we are there to enable access to decent and affordable housing for the low-income households in Kenya. And therefore, the targeting for us starts right at the community level. That is in form of the identification of who is it that is to work with us. We work with what we call partner families, because really it's a collaboration between us and the families to end the housing poverty that is in the country. Our targeting is in 3 areas, and that is the rural poor, there's the informal settlements, and then there is the disaster risk settlements. So in those areas, it is the people that we find in those communities that will inform us of the needs that are there. And so we work with grassroots organizations, which we call project steering committees, and they are comprised of leaders of the community. From leaders to the village elders, to the local chief, to the local religious leaders, who then with them, we move into the different areas and understand what does that community need, and what kind of solutions does that community present, that really when brought together with Habitat's interventions, that we can design something that would work for them. So we ensure that we reach the very poor, the people that have no one really to lift them up. And that's why the selection is done by the community, and it is for the community. Yeah.
Thank you. Selection is done by the community, for the community. I hope the organizers of this event, we can have more to unpack some of the contributions we are having at this point. So probably we pass back the mic to Mr. Pedro. Yes, Mr. Pedro. So MasterCard, so maybe we could just let us know, since MasterCard has enabled local actors in so many initiatives, so how is MasterCard Foundation enabling local actors, especially youth and women-led organizations, to lead in their own, for their own solutions in their realities? So maybe as you do that, you could let us know some of the lessons you've learned about scaling grassroots solutions while still preserving local ownership and context. You see how it's relating back to Madam Rita's? Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. So maybe we should actually start by mentioning that at the MasterCard Foundation, we are currently implementing a program called Young Africa Works strategy, which is quite ambitious, talking about enabling up to 30 million young Africans into dignified and fulfilling work. This is across Africa and indigenous young community in Canada. Now, the part that could be more relevant here is about what is happening in Kenya. And when I talk about dignified and fulfilling work, how do we work? We work a lot with through education and financial inclusion. We also recognize, as I mentioned earlier, that the power of solutions come from the community and come from young people. And there is nothing as powerful as listening to young people, being able to actually understand what is their solution, what are their thoughts, what are their aspirations. And starting from when we design programs with young people, not for young people. We at the foundation, one of the critical learnings that I've actually gotten is the fact that listening, it becomes as one of our greatest values, but at the same time has always given us the opportunity to listen and understand and design the programs that end up being relevant to young people. Now, that also means that we have a larger percentage of our partner organizations are comprising of youth-led organizations. At the same time, we're also working with much more what we call African-led organizations and women-led organizations across the continent. So this is what were our serious ambition and intentions. As I mentioned, the reason that this is actually critical for us is because we know that the local communities actually own the power of solutions. And again, when it comes to what happens with the local communities, we know that we always are challenged with what we call scale. But when communities actually work together, when organizations, local communities work together, the chances of them succeeding and building an ecosystem that is more sustainable is actually very, very critical. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one more question. Thank you so much. I think we are appreciating the work that Habitat is doing and the work the MasterCard is doing in inclusion and hearing the voices of local actors. But just to expound further, your investments your investments and your grant models, how do they support direct funding to local organizations in Kenya?
Thank you. As I mentioned, our two charitable purposes actually are financial inclusion and education, access to education. Now, it might actually look very limited within that, but we're looking at a much bigger, ecosystem. And MasterCard Foundation does not implement programs directly. That is why the power of partnership, the power of the local-led organizations is quite critical for us. It doesn't mean that we do not work with non-African organizations, but it's just important and powerful for us that we recognize through what we call co-creation, who is actually aligned, with whom are we aligned in our mission, and that's really critical. So, and we work together, we listen to each other, and through that we get to understand what areas are we actually would actually be more suitable for us to work and partner with it.
Thank you. I'm sure the audience would have a question or two for you, but we proceed and then we pick the questions from the audience. And now we hear from, we hear from Mr. Duda. We've seen you. At some point I was wondering, all my questions have been answered. But please expound for us. It was interesting to see the work that you've done with the KCDF on resource mobilization, and just probably we hear more of your experience in how you can be supported better in taking up leadership roles as a local implementing partner? And maybe what are the critical enablers and barriers you've encountered in terms of co-designing and co-creating?
Okay, I think one of the critical enablers that would undertake leadership, one of them is recognition of capacity, so that as we engage with our partner organization, we recognize that we have rich knowledge of the local context. We have lived experiences with these communities, and we have even a closer tie to the community, and we really do understand what goes on at...
About shifting, we've talked about shifting power to local actors.
Accountability is can be realized even with the implementing partners, as on a journey that we've had with ChildFund International, that
among that, we see also youth, children, and women are critical to that. So what we do, there are different mechanisms that we use, starting with community consultation. And we have brought in board not just civil society, and we have brought in board not just civil society organizations, but also corporate organizations, also corporates. We have corporate donors that are, some of them are here. We have corporate donors that are, some of them are here, that we work with, in all the challenges. And localization in all the challenges. And localization, as I mentioned, is a journey, and it has its own challenges. And as an aspect of financial systems that enable them to be systems, that enable them to be accountable. And we build the ChildFund accountable. And we build the ChildFund, but all the stakeholders, because it's upward ChildFund, but all the stakeholders, because it's upward and downward accountability. That it's a fine and downward accountability. That it's a fine balance. Because here, you're dealing with me as a local organization, but you're dealing with me as a local organization, but at the same time you're my donor. How do you ensure we have most of child should be? It is, we only give them guidance. It is them and the local leadership to decide this family is most vulnerable, so we should sponsor their children. We don't risk the intestines of goat. Okay? To tell when it will rain, when there will be drought, and even when there will be conflict. Okay? Or learning, or thinking, we're building on that local indigenous knowledge as early warning system.
Partnership, we've talked co-creation, we've talked inclusion. What have I missed? Local resource mobilization, equitable partnership at Mackenzie. We have 2 slots for questions? Yes. Okay, 2 questions. I would love to hear more about the God instance. You help me out here. 2 questions. Okay, we can make it 3. 1 from this side, 1 from this side, and 1 from this end. So I have 1 question from that.
Suggestions, recommendations, and questions. One is to Shege and ChildFund. The whole issue of localization concerned, mostly when people hear about local resource mobilization, people only look at the aspect of financial issue of volunteerism to fulfill its objectives. Number 2 is we have an employment challenge in this country. And the fact of the matter would be is employers, then again, with the view of them supporting the localization process. Number 3 is to the organizations that are receiving that in the current PBO Act, there is room for local resource mobilization in terms of economic activities that are then plowed of the funding that you receive. And where funding is going now, there's going to be a lot of, instead of corporate funding, we are going to get a lot of individual. Instead of corporate funding, we are going to get a lot of individual. individual funding. So then how are we again?
For us, and as a child and youth focused organization, we first look into capacity building, and we want to see whatever we have, we want to see the child. We want to see whatever we have, we want to see the child and the youth has a seat on the table. That's the first point of entry for them. And we also build their capacity in aspects of child advocates, youth advocates, that they speak for themselves. Nobody is best placed than themselves to articulate their issues. And where they're not able to participate, we use caregivers. Because some of them are very young, there's 1 to 3 years. We work with their caregivers to do that. So that is one aspect. That how are they engaged? What's their contribution? So for going forward, I think Kenya, and we have going forward against is that we have alumni. All the sponsored children that have sponsored globally. Currently, we're talking of over 250,000 that are actively being sponsored. But those who have sponsored, and in this country, we have very senior people. Like we have a sitting governor who is a former sponsored child. We have a former finance minister who is a former sponsored child. We have so many. So what we have done, we have created alumni. That those alumni contribute to the national development in different ways. Some of them sit in boards of this organization, local organization. Some of them sit on our advisory board. And some of them are contributing into whatever is happening at their local levels. That's another level of volunteerism that we have inculcated to the youth and all the sponsored children. Currently, ChildFund Kenya is working on volunteer strategy. They're working with VSO, the globally recognized organization that is good, that is the leader in volunteerism. So working around that. The other thing you talked about employment. Yes, there's a big issue of employment here, and we're looking at as an organization. One, how do you assist youth, work with youth, for them to be job creators as opposed to be job seeking?
Yes.
Okay, that's one. But we're also looking at, because of that, they need resources, financial resources. And I know, like, MasterCard has the Africa, the program they're doing, 30 million, they're looking for that African youth. We're trying to see how can we link our youth to that. But in addition to that, we're also looking at, as an organization, how do we invest in social enterprises for the youth? Because that's a way that we can help them to grow and be able to contribute for the economic development of their countries. Thank you.
Thank you, and I would pick from where Mr. Chege has stopped on employment, and I would like to reiterate on the aspect of community social enterprises, and just directly opposite there, you see the bottled water. The managing director for that bottled water is a 26-year-old youth who graduated from the program and is now running that community social enterprise, not just the bottled water, but the water supply, which has been implemented in that manner to provide sustainability of the water supply in the community and also provide employment for the youth. He works together with 7 other colleagues, and that provides employment for him and his colleagues. And he's paid at the scale of entry-level graduates, just like any other enterprise. So that is one. And the other aspect of employment we are talking about, as we stay within these communities, our program implementation model is focused on sustainable business models. That's why we do full value chains. If it is agriculture, we do right from production to value addition. And within that value chain, there is participation of the youth. At the production level, there are youths who are farmers themselves. At transport section, like most youths, you would find them riding bodas. They enable this value chain to thrive through their participation in terms of delivery of goods and services. For these enterprises, we are talking about like the dairy, the moringa, and the other enterprises. So it is quite critical. And the second part of the question that you had asked for the partners, does it work, and how can it be upscaled? And does it work? I would say yes. And I say yes by just mentioning the evidence that was presented earlier. 5 years ago, we would pray and wait for ChildFund Kenya to give us 100% of the resources. And the mere fact that there are little resources that can be cited from organization A, B, and C, then it works. In terms of upscaling and how it has been scaled, we have worked with ChildFund Kenya and ChildFund New Zealand to design a framework that can be systematically followed by any organization to grow to that level, which starts from self-assessment and analysis of exactly where you are, and strategic implementation of programs in 5 key areas, and one among them is governance, finance and resource mobilization, partnerships, and other areas of the organization that we can systematically target to ensure that an organization moves forward, including key indicators that can be measured to show whether there is progress being made. And that model is already marked for socialization with all other ChildFund partners, and can be borrowed by all other local partners that would wish to take the same journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I was kind of eager to hear if it works. Thank you so much. So please, I'm informed, I would love all of us to ask the questions, but I'm informed we are pressed for time. So we take one question from this end and another question from this end. Is there a question on this side? No? We move quickly to this side. I saw a hand there. Okay. All right. Please proceed. Okay. The eyes have it. The eyes have it.
You know, there's a discussion now on gender. Is a boy child being endangered? I'm answering that. They are not.
Thank you, Terry.
All right. My name is Buda George from Safe Environment Hub. And we've engaged ChildFund indirectly. First, we engaged them through Study Foundation in their project called Emergic. It was the one that led to this beautiful project called Black Social Applied Farming. So on the same note, I come to realize that there is a lot that you can do with ChildFund, and with regard to the topic, the localization topic, I just have like a couple of questions here. To the panelists, all of you, it can be ChildFund and MasterCard and anyone over there. Now, one of the questions is, what systems or benchmarks has ChildFund established to measure progress in the localization process, and how can SEHAB, that is the organization, contribute to data and lessons from the grassroots to support the tracking? And then my second one is, what can local partners play in decision-making processes from budget planning to strategic direction within ChildFund's localization agenda? Then my last one is, how can ChildFund and any other organization here create more flexible partnership models that accommodate the realities and innovation and local organizations like SEHAB? And we know that for ground things are different, because from a general overview, it's easy to implement a project, but when you go to the ground, it's a bit challenging. Yeah. So those are my questions to the panelists. Thank you.
Good questions. I think the first one is, excuse me, is what systems you've established to monitor and ensure. Anyway, I think to start with, is looking at an organization. For example, we started with CBOs. Now, all of them, I'm happy to say, their registers are local NGO. That's a progress on itself, that have clear systems in terms of governance, in terms of management, in terms of financial resources and accountability. That is one. The other thing that we look at is, and I think Caroline alluded to that, how much of their finances are sourced externally, not depending on ChildFund alone. And we are seeing at minimum, all of them have to have at least 20% of their own resources or their match. That's another an indicator of this organization is progressing. And of course, we have the other system, the one Luda is alluding to, the roadmap that is indicates in the next 10 years where will you be? And that the benchmarks that indicate, are we moving towards that? Are there challenges? And of course, we have our own M&E system that tells us this year we're able to do this and this. And maybe an example, for example, another level of maturity or growth is, do these organizations have their own strategic plan that guide them? We have our own strategic plan. And even themselves, they have their own strategic plan, because it's through that strategic plan that they are able to engage with other potential supporters, donors, and partners. Just like that, without going into details.
Thank you. Mr. Pedro?
Well, I thought all the questions were directed to ChildFund, so I wouldn't be able to make any addition to what Mr. Chege has actually brought forward. Allow me.
Thank you.
And just again, yeah, so that it doesn't get a bit into, oh, who is MasterCard? So we have the MasterCard Foundation, which is the one I'm representing, and then we have the MasterCard International, two separate entities. Just,
Thank you for the clarification. And just to note, and I think I'm so glad that that has been mentioned here, localization is a journey, it's a process. Yes, and because of that, I would just want to invite someone, Terry, maybe your points, but also just also highlight, in relation to the question that he has, also highlight Charter for Change and it being part of the processes to promote localization.
Right, thank you, Sharon. From I think Equity Bank has already alluded to this. In the light of what Trump did to the international aid sector when he pulled the carpet under all of us, and now we've seen what's happening, a lot of other governments are also starting to reduce their funding. So then it calls for us to have innovative ways of funding aid or funding development or addressing issues of poverty, and that has been alluded to. And the sector has responded a lot. We've seen already very interesting alternative funding models coming up. And recognizing that to address poverty, it's not just about funding, it's the interesting ways that we can come up with to address these issues, you know, and someone has talked about recognizing not just funds, but, you know, volunteership, direct sponsorship, and, you know, other innovative funding models. So in light of this, we also have to think of ways to reduce and to be more efficient, reduce the transactional cost, increase efficiency, I think that was alluded to in the presentation, and also reduce undue demand on the frontline responders. That is our partners that we work with. A lot of local and national organizations that we work with as donors and INGOs, so reducing undue pressure on them and increasing time and resources for them to do the direct program work, as well as duplicate accountability, reduce duplication of accountability requirements, that's reporting, due diligence, compliance. So I was just going through that to ask ChildFund and the others in the room, MasterCard Foundation, what are we doing to enhance more collaboration in the sector? I am a strong advocate for localization and also for collaboration. And that's why we work very closely with Charter for Change, because what it does is bring all of us together to collaborate and to move towards shifting the power jointly. So my question maybe to ChildFund after all these things that I have said is, as part of your very robust capacity strengthening needs assessment work, what are you doing towards increasing collaboration to reduce, of course, the transactional cost of, you know, continuous capacity assessment on the same partners that TROGRA will do, that MasterCard Foundation will come and do, that other NGOs, ChildFund will come and do? What are you doing towards enhancing more collaboration to reduce this duplication? That's one. And I'll pack the other one, I think, for the next session because it's on joint funding models. But over to you, Sharon. I think later then I can comment on
Thank you.
Charter for Change.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gidinji. Heavy question there, but a relevant too. I think for us as an organization, I think I alluded to that earlier on, that we work with other agencies, other organizations. And as you can see, in both cases, I think the outline that Caroline presented on who are the donors and all that, we are more of connector as opposed to guiding what they are doing. So we work in creating connections with other organizations here, outside there, but also ensuring that the local organizations are also doing the same. That they are not, what can I say, silent. They are also proactively working with others. And as I mentioned, we have ensured that all our 13 local partners are working together, are learning from each other. And we also, so I think that's what I could say, but we're also part of broader, as an organization, we are part of 11 organizations that we call ChildFund Alliance that bring all this, and ChildFund alone is reaching 15 million children. But with Alliance, we are talking over 70, 60 million children that we reach. And again, that's a way showing that how we bring other stakeholders and actors to provide this. And in terms of, we are looking at also innovative financing. Okay, because this is the donor trends are changing, the aid sector is also changing, and we cannot afford to be left behind. So we're looking at how do you employ technology? How is technology coming into place? How is innovation coming into place? And we can see some of the innovations that we have. We also, another area we are looking at is the issue of branded financing. And in our case, as I mentioned, we have funding from sponsors, the 250,000 or so. How do you use that to leverage other resources that we are able now to get more resources and now brand that and ensure that you're having impact whatever we are doing, emphasizing on efficiency. How efficient are we? It's a very competitive world. How efficient are we? How can we be more attractive to MasterCard Foundation? Are we more efficient? What is our cost-benefit analysis that can make us more attractive? And that we also have to be very entrepreneurial. How are we entrepreneurial? And so this is where innovation comes in. So it's not one size fits all, and it's not that one approach. There's no magic bullet here. I think you need to look at all these approaches and how that works. That's what I can say for now, Madam Givinji.
Thank you. We have one more question and we'll wrap it up.
Okay, thank you very much. I know I've really pushed for it, but it's a very short one. It will not take long. I think I really want to say thank you to ChildFund for this opening. It's really opened our eyes on a lot of things happening in terms of localization and of course areas of partnership where people are able to partner. So it was a really good eye-opener for us. Working with the local organizations is something that even us we really thought of. I don't know how big the organizations you work with down at the grassroots level, because some are very small. Of course, they could be registered. But I know as we want to work with them, and that is something that I've also been pushing for. I work for FAO. And our fear has been the issue of compliance in terms of accounting for the funding. So I don't know whether you have made cases where they have not been able to comply and be able to report, because that is our greatest fear. And then if you have, what have you been able to do about that? Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. It's true, yeah, they have challenges in some of them, and we have seen that happens. Even the registered ones have challenges, but we work with the PBO team to build their capacity on what is required, what is required for them, even in terms of annual submission, taxation and all that. They're there, and we have training that provide, and we have a big framework where we look at what you call enterprise risk management. And that falls within the risk management of the organization. So we work with them, it's there. But one thing is that we cannot learn away because that's the reality. But we need to invest in ensuring they have the systems, they have the capacity to be able to comply. And one, as I mentioned, we work with them. We hold hands, we work with them. We don't work for them, we work with them so that over time they can take charge, take charge. And I think this is, Edica is one of the examples. Engineer Duda can tell you, maybe briefly, how much they'll be able to do that, the support they'll be given to be able to where they are in terms of compliance with all the regulatory and statutory requirements.
Thank you, Mr. Chege. And we've had a number of capacity building and trainings for us to be able to be where we are today. And one of the very key ones is governance and compliance, and creating an environment where that compliance is able to we can be able to take place. And I think the first step to getting us there was a very rigorous participatory organization capacity assessment, which assesses all the aspects of governance and identifying a number of loopholes that could be there for filling. And one of such, which I mentioned earlier, is lack of clear separation between management and the board, which overshadows now oversight. And that distinction was clearly targeted and created. And right now, even before we comply to ChildFund Kenya, the board will have already ensured that everything is done in compliance, both with the Kenya Revenue Authority. We account in time all the relevant taxes paid, and all the other withholding, any taxes we are compliant with pay. We are compliant with the national, with the PBO. We file annual returns. We have the compliance letter, because that is also a requirement in terms of requiring funding. We attend PBO authority trainings annually, and in cases where we have specific training needs, we specifically invite them to provide that training need. And in terms of also reporting to donors, we have a very strict requirement by ChildFund, which includes even penalties in case of non-compliance, including very strict deadline for sending financial reports, narrative reports. So if we fail to submit, there are consequences, including withholding of funding. And another strategy that they use is that the funding doesn't, in instances when we were still very low, they don't fund once, but they come in tranches, which we get subsequent tranches after accounting for the initial one. And with that, trust is built, and now we can be bequeathed even a year-long funding, because that consistency has been built all over time.
So you heard from the horse's mouth. There you are.
Thank you. Please. Thank you. And like I said, you asked an interesting question, and I step back a little bit as the moderator and just say, from the Charter for Change as a global movement, if you're wondering where to start from, yeah, there is already an open source due diligence tool. You can check it on the website for Charter for Change. This is an initiative that brought together a lot of the participating INGOs to actually have one common tool that will help you start on the due diligence towards national actors and the rest. So it's work in progress, but already it's there, it would help. And also, just to highlight, like we said, Terry and I, representing Charter for Change Kenya Working Group, our main aim is to promote and to promote the voice and influence of local actors and to promote localization in Kenya. Thank you so much, Beatrice, Casper, Ruth, Victor, and Chege. I managed to remember all of them. Thank you. And I hand us over back to Mackenzie. Sorry to all the people who are not able to answer. I think next time.
I think we have some time, a little bit of time.
Oh, okay.
1 or 2.
All right. Thank you. Thank you all.
So, very exciting session, and we could tell because the questions were coming, and I had to really stop it just for the benefit of, respecting people's time also.
and some of us need to leave. So this next session is really easy. That's why I've come off of the podium, because it's an interaction with the donors that are here, with the partners, and it's sort of like a continuation of the session that has just ended. We've just asked one question and then just let it flow. But we have very limited time, so we've also limited the number of questions. So the question for this session is, and we sort of also alluded to it, we probably have even answered the question, but the question is, how do various, well, this question is not worded well. What are the various funding models and how are they promoting localization? So we've sort of answered that, right? But I just wanted to hear from some of those that have not spoken. I know we have many other partners that are here. So we just wanted to hear what are the various or alternative funding models that are there and that you're practicing within your own organization, and how are these funding models promoting localization? And so I'll have my people help me with the mic. Yeah. And if you have any other burning question, I think it's fair enough to also let you ask. So for those that are, our donors, our partners, development partners, what funding models are you using? Okay. All right. Yes. Or any other question? I'm seeing, I'm sensing that we've answered that. So maybe anyone else who had another question, maybe we'll take one or two and then we proceed. We have one here and then.
Good morning. Yeah, the discussions were going on, I know presented here the private sector, and probably just to hear what is the call to action for some of the private sectors represented here, and in terms of the localization agenda, how do public benefit organizations see themselves partnering with the private sector in terms of now that there are some of the changes in the funding from international, like the US aid. So how do you bring in the private sector to support you? From experience, I think I see mostly relying on the CSR activities that the private sectors are able to support. But other than that, how do we incorporate the private sector in terms of the objectives and such that you marry your agenda and the private sector agenda, you're able to co-create a program or a solution that can be able to support the localization agenda in terms of empowering the community and being able to help them be self-sustainable. Yeah. So two-part, what is the call to action, even as we participate in this conversation, how do we come in and how do you work with the private sector? Thank you.
Good question. I think, Mr. They say development is like a stool. It has 3 legs. So if one leg is missing, you cannot sit on that stool. And the 3 legs are government, civil organizations, and private sector. Now, there's a lot of opportunities for private sector, and you're seeing even donors, big donors, moving from philanthropy handouts. And you've seen governments like, which is the best government? I think look at 2 governments, Australia and New Zealand. Australia, there used to be Australian Development Aid. That was moved out to foreign economic development, foreign affairs and all that. The same with New Zealand. They used to have news aid. That was gone also, because they're moving from philanthropy to market-driven. It's trade. Actually, it's Ministry of Trade and Foreign Affairs and Trade. The same with Australia. It's trade, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade, because they now want to engage in trade. So the same, the NGOs have also moved from handouts. And even as ChildFund, I can say we're moving from handouts where we used to give food and all that, to where now we're assisting communities, participants, maybe giving them with means. For example, assisting to do income generating activities for interest savings and loan. Maybe giving them what you call shorts, goats and sheep for them to be able to generate, as an example. So I think we see a big role here of the private sector now. One, as a market. I think everything that we're doing, even what we are working the youth, is market driven. Where is that market? The market is the private sector. So how then can we work with the private sector to build the capacity of the youth so that they can be, one, create a market for whatever they are doing, but also they are creating future employees. And I can give examples here. We have one I can call innovative program that has been funded by two corporates, Coca-Cola Foundation and Dow, looking at circular economy. And we're looking at, I see here calling it waste management. For me, that's circular economy. Because you look at how do you look at waste. And we're looking at creating employment in the informal sector. When you look at Coca-Cola, most of the plastic comes from the bottles and all that. They are one of the major contributors. They have a responsibility to ensure that the environment is clean. Look at Dow, they're also looking at the manufacture high level plastics for lapping and labeling and all that. So they have an obligation to also support that, but they don't sit and do that. They look for opportunities to work with NGOs, and at a broader framework, there is the ESG framework. ESG is environment, social and governance, which corporates are expected to comply with. The regulator expects corporates to comply with. And who is best placed to work with corporates for them to comply is NGOs. So it's that straight away you can engage NGOs, because in NGOs we are doing a lot of social enterprise. That's the enterprise. We are looking at social, a lot of social. Ours is social good. We're doing a lot of that. Then we are also doing a lot of, we used to call it climate change, but that has moved for reasons. Now referring it to environmental sustainability. We are doing a lot of that. So a corporate does not need to reinvent the wheel. It's just a matter of working with NGOs, either local or international, that can able to do that. And we're seeing that in many places. Some of them, there's so many opportunities where corporates can work with NGOs. And NGOs are not, yes, they're working with you because so that you can get resources or can help youth get employment, women to get employment, like the circular economy is created a lot of employment for women and youth. But we don't want to sit like a dependent relationship where NGOs are going to cooperate for funding. We're seeing how NGOs and corporate working to address the common good. And I think corporates have what they call sustainable citizenship responsibilities or sustainable obligations. That's the best way we can work is through local organization. There are many examples. Thank you.
Thank you, Chege. So there's a survey that we want to carry out just now, so I'll give Charles to just explain it.
Yeah, so please go onto your phone, on your browser, menti.co. I'm sure most of us are familiar with it. Please input your code. We are asking 4 questions today. Strengths, barriers or challenges around localization, and the last question is open-ended, just your views on how we can strengthen localization in Kenya. In order for you to navigate, once you log in, you can navigate on the bottom there. There is an arrow that points to the next question. So I can see already some of us are responding to the same, looking at the strengths around localization efforts. It's more or less like the same, 50%, 50%. Please respond so that we see which one comes out as the greatest strength. And it's coming out that availability of local expertise and leadership is a strength. Strong presence of community-based organizations, very key for legitimacy and ownership. Deepening of understanding of local context and needs. So please keep the answers coming, please. It's changing. You can see deepening understanding is the most of local context and needs. Maybe we could check the next question even as you're responding. Thank you, Dennis. So that the previous slide was strength. The next is opportunities. So what opportunities do we see as stakeholders in this country of advancing localization in Kenya? Keep them coming. It's multiple choice. I think three options. Great. 100%. Okay. Changing. Dropping. These other specified. Okay. 73. So we can see the greatest opportunities are around donor interest in funding local actors directly. And also involvement of youth. I think we've had a lot of discussions around youth participation and agency. Youth involvement at the community level is really standing out. BOs. I can see most of us are saying bureaucratic hurdles in funding and policy implementation. Okay, that has changed to capacity gaps in governance and accountability. Okay, so the bureaucratic hurdles in funding and policy implementation, but the greatest is the capacity gaps in governance. Then the last question is, thank you for your contributions, highly appreciated. Critical action, one. Magic bullets. One critical action that can accelerate effective localization in Kenya. This is an open-ended question. Please keep them coming, your responses. One critical action today that we can undertake as stakeholders. Coordination, collaboration, synergy around the work that we're doing in the communities, in the country. Again, collaboration, capacity building. You can take the keywords, capacity building, local collaboration. We can see capacity building and short-term financing, consistency. Interesting to hear more on that. Resource mobilization, involving the youth in grassroots level. Standardizing tools of engagement. Maybe let's can scroll down. Standardizing tools of engagement and strengthening governance, diversifying income streams. All right. Thank you.
Charles, we are almost done. Thank you so much for your patience. Just 2 minutes, I'll hand over the mic to Terry to tell us a little bit more about our Chartered for Change. And then after that, we'll have a photo session, and then vote of thanks, and then we are closed.
Hi everyone. Sharon had asked me to give a brief on Charter for Change. And before I start, I just want to know in the room, how many of us are international organizations or intermediaries? So you give money to local actors. 1, 2, 3. Okay, how many represent donors or intermediaries? Okay, so private sector. I've run out of categories. All right, so Charter for Change is, should I call it a movement, or it's a localization initiative that brings together all the players in the sector. So you're either an intermediary, you give money to local and national organizations, or you're a local and national organization receiving the money. So jointly we come together and advocate for a shift of power for localization. It's a global movement, has currently 40 signatories, so they've signed against 8 commitments that advance localization. And every year they report on those commitments. So like the way ChildFund was outlining how much of their funding goes directly to local actors and how much goes to direct implementation. So every year, every signatory who has signed accounts on how they are progressively, as you said, it's a journey, how you're progressively moving more funding to local and national organizations, how you're progressively working towards shifting power, so allowing more local organizations to sit in boards, to sit in decision-making platforms, to meet donors so that they can access funding directly, how you're advancing partnership, quality partnership. So there are 8 commitments. Sharon keeps on doing this and it disappears. So there are 8 commitments. There's direct funding, partnership, transparency. So do INGOs and donors print or share how much money they have so that then you know they're accountable to the sector? Recruitment, are we poaching staff from local actors and in that way undermining their capacity to deliver on the program work? Advocacy, we are emphasizing on local actors and their importance. Equality, so addressing the issue of subcontracting, it's come up here in the research, in the Menti survey, 1 year grant, 6 months grants, is that localization? So of every year we report on how we are advancing and giving more longer term grants to local and national actors, how much are we supporting and promoting local actors. So 8 commitments, and the role of local and national actors who are the endorsers of Charter for Change is to hold their donors, is to hold their INGOs to account against the 8 commitments that they have made. So we welcome you all to join as endorsers or as signatories. And if you need to, please see Sharon or write to her, and she will give you the process on how to do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Telly. I know you had a lot to say, but unfortunately we've run out of time. So we'll request Chege to give his vote of thanks. We've changed the order a little bit. And then after that, we'll do a photo session. Are we now here? Yeah, okay. Thank you.
I'm excited to see who is here, the president, all the diverse experiences, sectors we come from, all for the well-being of children in different ways. And I'm happy to see some of our local partners, local implementing partners that we started with are now on their own, approve that localization is acting, localization is a journey, but the journey with the results. And so we should not be giving up on some of these. Just like you don't give up on your children, you try as much as possible to bring them to be responsible children. So I'm excited, and I want to take this opportunity to thank the government, Dr. Kipto. Thank you for taking time. I know they are very busy. The PBO is new. They're working on the regulations. There's a lot of demand on that, but he allocated time to us. Thank you very much, and also presenting Dr. Moro. Personal regards for his works here. I want to thank everybody, our advisory board, our board members. I can see the chair is here, the vice chair has just left, and also our colleagues from the private sector. Thank you for coming to be part of this. We're excited to see this, because this is not a one-person show. It's all for us, for the development of Africa. I think Africa is the biggest beneficiary. And I say, for where I stand, it is Africans to develop Africa. I know you have my good friend Roland is here. He's here. He's opened a global office here to help Africa, global South, grow and all that. So it's us here that we need to contribute to what we aim to in order to have a sustainable continent that is aligned to the SDGs. It's more for our benefits and all that. And again, we have what it takes. We have the skills, we have the experience, and we have the resources. Africa is the frontier of growth. And there's one thing that is working toward, 2 things that are to advantages. One is the young age. Africa has the youngest population. Okay? Africa has the source of raw materials. Even as we move from biofuels to green energy, we have all the resources we need. So how do we work together to exploit those resources for the well-being of Africa? I think, and Africa is our child, is our children. The future is our children. So how are we investing to create that child support that child that is responsible for the future. A few things that I thought are important that we have had here that I think are important to as we go out. I know our colleagues challenged us, what is the call to action? As this meeting, what's the call to action? A few things. One is we're talking of maybe 7 elements that I think are critical for us. One is empowerment and ownership. We're saying empowering local communities is crucial for sustainable development. When communities have ownership over its initiatives, they are more invested in success and longevity of these projects. This means involving local leaders in decision-making processes and ensuring that community members have the tools and resources they need to drive development forward. That's the only way we can be sustainable. The number 2 is collaboration and partnerships. We cannot do it alone. We need collaboration. Effective collaboration between government, private sector, and community organizations can lead to more impactful solutions. By leveraging the strengths and resources of each partner, we can create scalable initiatives that address local needs. It is essential to foster trust and open communication among all stakeholders to ensure successful partnerships. Number 3 is capacity building. We are saying building local capacity is fundamental to sustaining development efforts. This involves providing training resources and knowledge sharing to empower communities, including indigenous knowledge. When local actors are equipped with the necessary skills and tools, they can independently manage and sustain development projects, leading to long-term success. Number 4 is innovative approaches. We're saying innovation is key to driving sustainable development. By adopting new technologies and creative solutions, we can address unique challenges faced by local communities. Encouraging local innovation ensures that solutions are tailored to specific needs and can be more effective in achieving sustainable development. The 5th one is monitoring and evaluation. We have to monitor, we have to evaluate, to learn and to correct as we move. And the other, number 6, I think, is inclusivity. We cannot afford to leave anybody behind. We also have to ensure that all the stakeholders, private sector, government, civil organizations, communities are part of that. And the other one, and I'm happy Dr. Kipto is here, is the policy support. Supporting policies and frameworks play a vital role in facilitating localization. Government policies should encourage local initiatives and partnerships, providing the necessary support and resources. By creating an enabling environment, we can ensure localization efforts are sustainable and effective. And PPO is a good example how we are nurturing that and supporting that. So we are calling all the stakeholders, join hands, let's collaborate. Let us not duplicate what we are doing. If we are able to collaborate, we avoid duplication, we'll avoid unnecessary competition, because there's a lot of the needs are humongous. Resources are few. So how do we utilize those resources? How efficient can we be in utilizing those resources? That's the only way we can succeed. Wishing you well as we continue. You can stay as long. There's a lot we there's a lot we can discuss. I know we have lashed, but I think there's a lot we can learn from each other. And this is the opportunity, but let us not stop here. Let's continue growing, creating connections, growing our connections. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everybody, for participating on these days. I think the event has been successful. And so the last part of this, before you leave, we kindly, Awino here will organize us for a photo session. And as you leave, please, let's interact. Let's take each other's contacts. And let's organize meetings in our own offices, because this agenda needs more discussion, more cultivation amongst ourselves. But thank you, and we hope to have another event like this in the future, and we hope to see you. Thank you very much. maybe not all of them that table has offered. So. But you're free to buy any other things.
Thank you so much.
Why?
It is the very water they drew for drinking. From the statistics and data from the Ministry of Health, it's determined that that's why we collaborated with our main donor to be able to set up a water treatment by cleaning.
As a report, we have many innovations that are helping the world to solve some of the main challenges are one of the technologies we have is the ultra filtration unit. And basically, this is a filtration unit which remove all the particles and all the substances. So when the water comes from this unit, it is safe for human consumption and will not require we are happy to be partner with ChildFund in this project, and we are sure that this project is
The intervention has come big because in terms of addressing this problem, it addresses the issue of water availability, and water security. Those are really main problems that these interventions are addressing, and that is a game changer.
in this particular project, we were doing is to offer a solution for drinking water. All that we did first was to take a sample of the water. We tested, and from the test results that we got, we gave a solution for the alpha filtration.
We are abstracting water from the lake and treating it to provide clean and safe water for the residents of Yagina Beach. I am standing right next to the shore of Lake Victoria. You will be able to see the pipe here. We are abstracting water at 30 meters inside the lake, and fairly placed to avoid any competition with fishermen boats. So we abstract this water and take it to us from when our